Hi everyone, this is What If Fan, bringing you the corrected version of the last part for now of What If Transmigrated to Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Please find the fanfic name and author name in the description. Please support the author. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe and check out the other content on the channel. Let's start. Chapter 26. While he initially only planned on purchasing Fallen Current, getting a few extra copies of them when he saw they were only 100 DP each, he ended up splurging and spending an extra 20,000 DP. The equivalent of 2,000 quid back home. So in total he spent the equivalent of 2,050 quid when including the 5 copies of Fallen Current he bought. Sadie, it seemed, had gotten a new card in stock that she knew he would love and kept it by for him instead of putting it straight up for sale. One he'd never heard of at all, but after he saw the effect, couldn't resist the urge to buy it at all. Eat your heart out, Zane. Yarden laughed to himself as he relaxed on his comfy green couch, deck in hand and his newest acquisition at the front, admiring it. The great big serpentine dragon of magma staring back at him was a thing of beauty and badassery in one. TCH, it's nothing special, Serpent Knight Dragon coiled along the length of the backrest of the couch scoffed, it's just a big flaming rock snake, hardly comparable to my own majestic self. Looked like someone was jealous. I am not, he turned his snout up at him. Kinda are, dark magicial girl phased into view and plopped herself down across his lap. Luckily she wasn't physical or she would have knocked his cards out of his hands, no need to be though, we all know your master's favorite. Well, besides me that is Teehee. Serpent Knight Dragon promptly ignored her. She shrugged with another giggle and phased her head through his cards and gave him a beaming smile. It's about time to go, master. That Dimitri kid has already stolen Yugi's deck and your pals, girlfriends included, are on their way there now. Girlfriends, plural? He raised an eyebrow at her, even as he stood up, going right through her body and stowed his cards in the deck box attached to his belt. Jazz and Minnie Pooh, we all know it's a matter of time. Dark magician girl shrugged and gave him a teasing wiggle of her eyebrows. Lovely Lexi went and decided to go see it early with them, and that Zane guy you love to flex your muscles with. Huh, that was different. Maybe because he bought them all tickets? Why didn't she come get me, he wondered. Breaking and entering was right up his alley. 'Cause you gave her into trouble last time they did something along these lines, remember? Well, kinda different, but they went out to find that Chaz guy and you gave them a verbal spanking, but same diff. She shrugged again and explained, basically, she thinks you're a stick in the mud. You what, mate? You've gotta be kidding me, he gave the dual monster babe a deadpan stare, because I gave them into trouble for being stupid and not using an inkling of common sense, I'm a stick in the mud? What the hell was wrong with people's logic here? Well, that and plus you told her before when she asked you to help with the dual giant and the egg witch thief that you wouldn't, and I quote, waste your time with lame crap like that. Dark magician girl added, Alexis has a pretty decent grasp on how lazy you are now. Honestly, I'm almost surprised you're bothering with this at all. You don't usually want to deal with these little adventures unless you get something out of it, but then, that's exactly why you're going, isn't it, master? As she finished, she gave him a deadpan look and directed her eyes at the table in front of the couch, where a rather shiny new video camera sat fresh out of the box and set for use. It's good publicity for me and it'll be easy, Yarden shrugged in response, leaning over to pick up the video camera. He's just some copycat that only managed to beat Cyrus and last as long against Jaden because for some reason the guy refused to use his best cards early on. Dark magician girl's eyes narrowed and she leaned back on the couch. You're underestimating Yugi's deck far too much, she told him seriously, you've only saw a fraction of what it's capable of. If you don't take him seriously, you'll lose. I doubt it, Yarden responded with a shake of his head, unless it's full of cards I don't know like the new ones he used against Kaiba, that deck won't be able to do much against me, especially not in the hands of Dimitri. That guy hasn't won a single duel since the year started, even after copying winning professional decks. Well, you'll see, she washed her hands of the discussion, just know, while my teacher isn't with the deck and neither are the god cards, many of the spirits that are deathly loyal to Yugi are within the deck and even in the hands of a thief, they won't go easy at all. They'll respond with equal if greater force. They'll refuse to give a poor showing that can reflect on their master. I'll keep it in mind. Yarden nodded, and he would. But he wasn't all that fussed or feeling threatened at all. Dimitri was just that bad. Not long later, video camera in hand, Yarden walked along the path away from the obelisk Blue Boys' dormitory. Instead of heading up towards the Duel Academy itself though, he made his way down towards the docks and then past them as well, circling around and... A shrill high-pitched scream echoed. And it was very close by. Ah, I'm just on time then. Yarden grinned, picking up the pace from a walk into a quick jog. He rounded the corner a few moments later and found Cyrus laying flat on his back beside a large rocky outcropping, while another taller teenager stood near the edge atop another, dressed in the mustard yellow jacket of RA yellow, with a ragged scarf around his neck. Dimitri. Also, for some reason he'd made the bottom of his jacket flare out at the back, the same way Yugi Moto wore his own jacket. How did he even do that anyway? Yarden thought idly as he made his way over to Cyrus. Did he use an iron or something? A pot of some hardening substance to stick it that way? So weird. Cyrus, you alright? Yarden asked the boy who was just kind of laying there, groaning. How did he even fall anyway? It wasn't like Dimitri had access to any real power. He highly doubted Yugi's deck would do that to some poor innocent kid just trying to get the stolen deck back. Maybe he just slipped? Cyrus was a real klutz after all. Kid needed to work on his body and get fitter for sure, especially his legs. Some calf raises and squats would do wonders for keeping his footing firm and stable. Why Yarden? Cyrus winced as he helped him up and gave him a pitiful look. He has it, and he beat me, easily. That wasn't exactly a grand accomplishment, but Yarden held his tongue. Has what? He asked, even though he already knew. Yugi's deck, he stole it. Cyrus revealed. That right? Yarden hummed, hiding a grin. With that now known, he could act on that information. He turned to Dimitri. Alright, Mustard Boy, how about you hand that deck back over? Stealing's a crime, you know? Dimitri merely raised an eyebrow at him. Mustard Boy? Do you mean that fool Dimitri? I think you have me mistaken for someone else, young duelist, he replied, his voice filled with a forced gravel and grit. That was nothing like his usual high-pitched and rather whiny-sounding voice. I am Yugi Moto, the king of games and greatest duelist in the world. He was really going to give himself a sore throat, was what he was actually, if he kept that up too long. Aren't you a little old to be playing pretend, mate? Yarden snorted and casually jumped up atop the rocky outcropping Cyrus had been standing atop previously. Now how about you give it up before you actually get in trouble? Or before you end up catching these hands, he continued, holding up a fist. Dimitri snorted, crossing his arms, threats of violence and made-up nonsense about not handing over my own deck? I think not. He then uncrossed his arms and dramatically pointed at Yarden. If you wish to take my deck from me, foul ruffian, you will have to do it through the ancient ways. In a duel. He kind of wanted to just say screw it and go kick him around a bit. He had to resist the urge to cringe from that. He was feeling embarrassed even from being involved in this nonsense. How could he say crap like that without wanting to curl up and die? Still, he resisted the urge to say that big final screw it and do him in real proper. After all, a recorded victory over Yugi Moto's deck, used by a pretender or not, would go a long way to boost his infamy alongside his victory over the Paradox brothers. And if his instigations went his way, Rex Raptor sometime in the future as well. There was no way that guy with his fragile ego would stay silent with his insults on live television and then refusal to apologize. Fine, whatever, Yarden shrugged and agreed aloud. It won't take long, I suppose. Saying that, he crouched down and held his video camera out to Cyrus. He would have tossed it over, but the klutz would have totally dropped it. Eh? Cyrus gave him a confused look, even as he accepted it. I was going to take a video of Yugi's deck, but I think a video of me crushing his deck in a duel will be much better. Yarden smirked. Record the duel, Cyrus, he ordered. Okay? Cyrus nodded and agreed. With that taken care of, Yarden stood back up fully and turned to face Dimitri, pressing the button in his gauntlet to deploy his Dragon Wing dual disc. Let's do this then, Dimitri, just don't whine too much when I wreck you. Yarden taunted. Gotta play to his audience after all. The cute smack talk of a child in over his head, Dimitri snorted, but since you're so gung-ho, then I don't suppose you mind me taking lead in drawing first? It's only natural for the king of games to go first after all. Yarden LP, 4000. Dimitri LP, 4000. Go for it. Yarden shrugged, initiating the duel and drawing 5 cards, while Dimitri drew 6. Then allow me to show you the true power of the greatest duelist of all. Dimitri laughed loudly and proudly, and I'll begin by playing a favorite spell card of mine, Dark Magic Curtain. This spell card allows me to give up half of my life points and summon the legendary Dark Magician from anywhere in my deck. In front of him, a large skeleton phased into view as he played the card, dangling a massive dark curtain that flapped in the wind. It pulled back a moment later to reveal a tall man dressed in purple robes and carrying a green scepter in hand. Dark Magician, Spellcaster Dark Level 7/Normal, 2500/2100. Yarden LP, 4000. Dimitri LP, 2000. Cyrus gasped in awe, the Dark Magician, and on the first turn too. Okay, but why? Sure, it was a 2500 attack point beat stick in the face of Yugi's deck, but the idiot just went and spent half of his life points on his very first move of the duel, never mind turn. As expected, this clown really was. And now with him on the field, I'll go ahead and play the continuous spell card, Sleight of Hand. Dimitri immediately followed and played another spell card that appeared face up on the field, displaying a hand with 2 cards on it, one a spell, the other a trap. While the hand having the sleeve of a very familiar purple robe. What this does, young duelist, is allow me to play trap cards immediately, even from my hand, as long as I have a Dark Magician monster on the field. Okay, that was new. Yarden had never heard of that card before. And immediately, I will play the trap card Solemn Wishes. Dimitri continued, setting another card, this one displaying the face of a solemn woman, a simple card, but powerful. It is a continuous trap that gives me 500 life points for every card I draw. Oh, so that was why. Yarden raised an eyebrow in interest. He was planning on regaining life points per turn passively with that card to make up for the ones he lost with the summoning of Dark Magician. Not a bad plan, to be honest. And now I activate the spell card bond between Master of Pupil. And it seemed Dimitri was far from finished. This card allows me to special summon a Dark Magician girl from anywhere in my deck so long as Dark Magician is on the field. And not only that, it allows me to set one of 3 different spell cards on the field ready to be used at my leisure. A split moment later, a familiar beautiful perky blonde, tiny pink skirt wearing magician burst onto the field with a happy giggle. Oh hey, it's me, hi me. Dark Magician Girl giggled from his side. Dark Magician Girl, Spellcaster Dark Level 5/Effect, 2000 of 1700. Yarden's second eyebrow rose. I'm fairly certain you're not supposed to be able to summon another monster the turn you activate Dark Magic Curtain, he thought. Another change, huh? Yep, and you better watch out, Dark Magician Girl hummed. That set card can be any of Dark Magic Attack, Dark Burning Attack or Dark Magic Twin Burst, and any of them spell bad news for you, master. Lovely. Well, he only had 2 cards left in his hand, so he should be done with his turn soon, and it wasn't like there was anything so far he couldn't handle. Now I activate the magic of Pot of Greed, allowing me to draw 2 new cards. Dimitri immediately dashed those thoughts and drew 2 cards. Hello my friend. The other boy's eyes lit up upon seeing one of the cards he drew. Oh, for Christ's sake. And with that his life points rose by 1,000. Dimitri looked at Yarden with a smug-looking smirk. I drew my dear ally Wadapon, and thanks to his special effect, if he enters my hand through a card effect, I can immediately summon him. A cute little pink fluffball burst into existence within a shimmer of light in front of Dimitri. Wadapon, Fairy Light Level 1/Effect, 200 out of 300. Well, at least it was only Wadapon. A tiny little defense or decent for a tribute, but nothing threatening. Still, 3 monsters on the first turn. That was pretty impressive for the losers around here. Now, everything is in place, Dimitri chuckled. With this, I play the equip spell card, Mage Power, and equip it to my Dark Magician, increasing his attack points by 500 for every spell or trap card on my field. Dark Magician, Spellcaster Dark Level 7/Normal, 4000/2100. Okay, a little more alarming now. But, nothing he still couldn't deal with. And thus the conditions are filled. Thanks to Mage Power and Sleight of Hand, I can activate the last card in my hand, the mighty trap card, Card of Last Will. Dimitri played the last card he had, emptying his hand in total, when a monster on my side of the field has their attack or defense points change in any way, this card allows me to draw until I have 5 cards in my hand. Wait, what? Yarden's eyes widened as Dimitri immediately began drawing until he had 5 cards once more in his hand. That's bullshit, what the fuck is that, he gaped. Not only did it give him 5 cards back in his hand, but it also made it so his life points jumped up by a full 2,500. Yarden LP, 4,000. Dimitri LP, 5,500. He had nearly half again as many life points as he started with. Those are some lovely life points, don't you agree, young duelist? Dimitri chuckled. I'm sure you're getting tired with me though, so I'll finish my turn in a moment. Moving forward, I shall sacrifice my Wadapan to summon the ever-electrifyingly powerful Summon Skull. Wadapan shimmered and disappeared, and in its place, a massive demonic skull-clad behemoth appeared in its place. Summon Skull Fiend Dark Level 6/Normal, 2,500/1200. And now finally, my last play of this turn. Dimitri declared grandly, slapping down another card. I play the spell card Dedication Through Light and Darkness. By sacrificing one Dark Magician monster, like my Dark Magician girl, I can special summon the one, the only, the legendary Dark Magician of Chaos from my deck. The Dark Magician girl on the field pouted as she disappeared, and in her place, a slender man clad in dark with a large staff exploded into existence and took to the field. Welcome, my friend, Dimitri greeted the card before turning to Yarden with chuckle. And now I set one final card, and I end my turn, and thanks to the effect of my Dark Magician of Chaos, I can take back one spell card from my graveyard and add it to my hand. I choose the spell card bond between student and teacher and now pass the baton to you, my dear opponent. And Dark Magician's attack rose by another 500 with the face down added to the field, bringing it to a grand total of 4,500 thanks to mage power. It was matched with 5-headed dragon. Dark Magician, Spellcaster Dark Level 7/Normal, 5,000/2100. Yarden stared at the field set up before him on his opponent's side. A continuous trap that gave 500 life points for every card drawn, a continuous spell that allowed his opponent to play trap cards immediately without setting them. An equip card that increased one of his monster's attack points by 500 for every trap or spell on his side of the field, one face down that could be one of 3 possibilities and another unknown. And that. Dimitri LP, 5,500. Dark Magician, Spellcaster Dark Level 7/Normal, 5,000/2100. Summon Skull Fiend Dark Level 6/Normal, 2,500/1200. Dark Magician of Chaos, Spellcaster Dark Level 8/Effect, 2,800/2600. Well, now, this could be a problem. Is this karma? Despite the situation, Jasmine couldn't wipe the massive grin off of her face as she peered down the cliffside. Where Yarden Odhar was currently dueling the thief who had stolen the King of Games deck. Maybe. Alexis, on the other hand, was, while not as jubilant as her friend, peering down with interest at her boyfriend. He, after all, just earlier today had boasted that he could beat Yugi, albeit a younger version of the King of Games, but still Yugi-Moto. And now he was facing an absolutely monstrously powerful lineup, from the very first turn. Something he usually liked to pull against his opponents. The shoe was on the other foot now, 3 powerful monsters and a full back row, she mused. What a crazy starting turn, but considering how he usually operates, the thing he needs to be most wary of is that face-down card. It's most likely a counter trap. Not quite Alexis, Zane, whom she and the girls had met up with on the way to go scope out Yugi's deck early with, replied, arms crossed, sleight of hand is the real problem here. As long as it's on the field, Dimitri doesn't even need to set his traps to play them, he can play them immediately from his hand. So Yarden has to be weary of that face down, and near all of the cards in Dimitri's hand, any single one of them could be a counter trap designed to stop Yarden in his tracks. Well, that's just not fair at all, Mindy pouted, that card is broken. And I mean, yeah, Yugi-Moto and all, but where did a card like that even come from? I've never heard of it. Pegasus most likely, as we saw not long ago with the Paradox brothers. It seems he made some custom cards for people he took a liking to, Zane shrugged, or if you want to go by Yarden's words, he magicked them into existence and pulled it out of his ass. Ew. Mindy wrinkled her nose. Not licious. Chumley added. They'd run into him, Bastion, Cyrus and Jaden along the way as well, and were the first ones to find out Yugi's deck had been stolen. They'd all split up to find the thief, and rushed over when Cyrus' piercing shriek echoed across the island. "Aw, come on guys, it's just the first turn," Jaden laughed. "I mean sure, a crazy first turn, and I don't think I've ever had a first turn that good, but the duel has just started and it's Yarden we're talking about here, he won't go down easy." "So you'd think," Bashunid mused, eyeing down below with a critical eye, "but do remember, Yarden himself has made it a habit of crushing other duelists, multiple at a time even in a single turn. If he doesn't have a counter, he may very well be done come the next turn." Alexis bit her lip. Sure, she'd said he could do with a bit of ego deflating earlier, but she didn't want to see her boyfriend get absolutely crushed. But Yarden was strong. The best duelist she knew personally, and he had power in spades. She was sure he wouldn't go down easily, Yugi's deck or not. "Alright, draw." Yarden began his turn. "I'll get right down to business and copy the copycat. I play of Pot of Greed." Pot of Greed. Dimitri gasped dramatically, in his overly exaggerated deep voice. Yarden drew 2 cards, bringing his hand up to 7, and now I play the spell card Dark Hole. He played one of the cards he drew immediately. "Sweet, that's the way." Jaden grinned, pumping his fist as a massive sphere of darkness formed in the air above both duelists and began exerting a powerful inverse of gravity, drawing Dimitri's monsters towards it. "A good opener when he hasn't played cards yet." Bastion nodded in agreement. "I'm afraid not." From my hand, using the effect of sleight of hand, I activate the trap card Magic Jammer, Dimitri countered. "By discarding 1 card from my hand, I can negate the activation of a spell card and destroy it. As such, I send my Blackluster Soldier to the graveyard and rid the world of your insidious spell." With the card played and monster discarded, the massive sphere of darkness above shattered into pieces. "You didn't need to tell me what card you sent to the graveyard, moron." Yarden rolled his eyes, uncaring that his powerful board-wiping spell card was just dealt with easily. "Only 3, for I guess to worry about now." "Alright, how about this? I play Reijiki." "I'm afraid I'll have to stop you right there once more." Dimitri thrust his hand out dramatically as a massive beam of lightning descended from the sky towards his monsters. "Face down, reveal yourself." The face-down card he had on the field flipped over to reveal the image of a long blue-haired woman holding an orb of light with a robed man's face depicted in setting sun. Mystical Ref Panel is a trap that I can activate in response to a card that targets me and reverses the effect back towards you. Dimitri laughed. The blue-haired woman shimmered into existence and spread her arms wide, conjuring a wide barrier that blocked the blast of lightning, and bounced it towards him. The lightning washed over Yarden a moment later and did nothing. Luckily for Yarden, he didn't summon anything before he played that card, or he'd have wiped out his own monsters. Bastion commented, face tense. "This is crazy." He countered both Dark Hole and Reijiki right after each other. "Who the hell does that?" Jasmine bit her lip. Zane smirked, contrary to the worry most of the others were showcasing. "He lost 2 incredibly powerful cards, but in return he's taken away Dimitri's protection. He only had the 1 card in his hand now, and they already knew what it was. And Yarden still had 5 cards to play himself. Not to mention, he didn't need to worry about guessing whether or not the cards he couldn't see would counter his plays. He was free to do as he pleased. "Alright, with that mess taken care of, let's fucking go." Yarden laughed, "And I'm gonna start off hot, mate. I play the special effect of the monster in my hand. If you have 2 or more monsters on the field, I can special summon it, so come on out, Burning Dragon." There was a shimmer of light, and then in front of Yarden a huge burning serpentine dragon with a body of sizzling magma burst into existence. Burning Dragon, Dragon Fire level 7/effect, 2500/2100. "Oh, my." Dimitri gasped upon seeing the burning dragon, before shaking his head. "A remarkable monster for sure, but merely a match for my summoned skull. It cannot hope to defeat my Dark Magician or Dark Magician of Chaos." "So you'd think," Yarden merely laughed. "See, he has 1 more effect beyond his special summoning effect. 1 per turn. By discarding 1 spell card from my hand, I can destroy all spell and trap cards on the field, and I'll be sending my Ruins of the Divine Dragon Lords to the graveyard to activate the effect and destroy all your spells and traps." "No!" Dimitri gasped and cried out, eyes widening in shock as Burning Dragon howled and unleashing a searing red scorching wind from its mouth that swept over his side of the field and destroyed the 4 remaining cards in his back row. Sleight of hand, the biggest problem Yarden was dealing with, going along with them. Not only that, but with the destruction of mage power. His Dark Magician that had fallen to 4,500 attack points with the use of his set trap card, dwindled all the way back to its original attack points. Dark Magician, Spellcaster Dark Level 7/Normal, 2500/2100. Not looking so hot now, Hafif boy? Yarden taunted with a grin, as was expected of him. Oh god, he's going to be even more full of himself. Jasmine face-palmed, god damn it. Despite her words though, there was an excited grin tugging at her lips at seeing him turn the situation around in an instant. Dimitri was silent for a moment, just staring in shock at the empty back row staring back at him, before clenching his jaw. No matter, just a minor setback. Besides, don't forget I have 2 monsters of the same attack points as yours and my Dark Magician of Chaos, which is stronger still. Yeah, about that, Yarden grinned at him. I'm gonna go ahead and play the spell card Foolish Choice. It allows me to pick 5 cards from my deck, add one of them to my hand and send the rest to the graveyard. He milled out 5 cards from his deck. I'll be sending my Rare Metal Dragon, Serpent Knight Dragon, 100 Dragon, and Carbonedon to the graveyard and adding my revived Serpent Knight Dragon spell to my hand, he declared. Oh, and while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and activate the effects of 2 of those monsters. When 100 Dragon gets sent to the graveyard in any way, I can special summon Baby Dragon from anywhere in my deck, and I can banish Carbonedon while he's in my graveyard to special summon 1 level 7 or lower normal dragon monster from my hand or deck, and I'm gonna choose my Sayaru. In twin bursts of light, 2 monsters, one a small muscular orange dragon, the other a large shimmering armored pink dragon appeared on the field, bringing his total monsters up to 3. Sayario Dragon Light Level 7/Normal, 2500/2300. Baby Dragon, Dragon Wind Level 3/Normal, 1200/700. But oh buddy, I ain't done there. Yarden punched his fists together. Before holding up one of the 2 cards remaining in his hand, I'm gonna go ahead and actually use my normal summon for this turn, to summon my Cyber Dark Horn. In another burst of light, a huge brown metallic worm-like monstrosity with a body filled with jagged spikes and gleaming green eyes appeared on the field. Cyber Dark Horn. Machine Dark Level 4/Effect, 800/800. And this guy has a nifty little effect, Yarden continued as his newly summoned monster gave a shrieking metallic howl. See, he and his 2 brothers can reach into my graveyard and equip any dragon monster that is level 4 or below to themselves, and they gain that equipped monster's attack points added to their own, and I'm gonna go ahead and have him team up with my Rare Metal Dragon. Cyber Dark Horn lowered itself to the ground, its spiky legs piercing into it and lighting it up with an ominous glow, before pulling up to reveal the shiny, spiky metal form of his Rare Metal Dragon clasped between its legs. Cyber Dark Horn, Machine Dark Level 4/Effect, 3200/800. Zane's eyes widened. Cyber Dark Dragon, he gasped inwardly. From the Underworld deck? That his teacher refused to allow him even the chance to see up close, never mind play? How did Yarden get his hands on them? He doubted the boy stole them. Despite his rough attitude, the boy wasn't a thief. So then, did Shepard believe Yarden was worthy of them, capable of handling them? They'd need to talk later for sure. Whoa, what kind of monster is that? Jaden whooped excitedly. Is this a kind of cyber dragon like Zane's? The Kuribo-haired youth looked at the older teen in askance. Something like that. Zane replied evasively. To be honest, even he didn't know much about the cyber dark dragons. This was the first time he'd even heard of their effect. Quite a potent one too, and had great synergy with Yarden. To use them he'd have to change his deck up massively. Dimitri visibly swallowed. Truly a fearsome lineup, he admitted, but, come next turn, I will turn things around. I believe in my deck and the heart of the cards surely will never let me down. He was right, Zane noted inwardly. Even if Yarden could destroy Dark Magician of Chaos with his Cyber Dark Horn, it would only deal 400 points of damage to his life points. He would need to have Sayario and Burning Dragon Kamikaze attack to take down Dark Magician and summon Skull to clear Dimitri's field, leaving him with only Baby Dragon to attack with and deal another 1200 points of damage. But Dimitri was forgetting one thing. That painful choice card, was not for simply getting rare metal dragon, 100 dragon, and carbonetin in the graveyard. Is that right? Yarden smirked. Let's test that, eh? And I'll start that by playing my favorite spell card. Revived Serpent Knight Dragon. With it, I can target any monster on the field and offer it up as sacrifice to special summon Serpent Knight Dragon from anywhere in my deck, be it my actual deck, hand, or even graveyard. And I'm gonna choose to offer up that shiny new Dark Magician of Chaos. Dimitri gasped as his Dark Magician of Chaos gave a pained shout, before bursting apart into flakes of light, lowering his field count by 1. While in a haze of dark light, Serpent Knight Dragon rose opposite on Yarden's field, bringing his number of monsters up to 5. Yarden LP, 4000. Burning Dragon, Dragon Fire level 7/effect, 2500/2100. Sayario Dragon Light level 7/normal, 2500/2300. Baby Dragon, Dragon Wind level 3/normal, 1200/700. Cyber Dark Horn, Machine Dark level 4/effect, 3200/800. Serpent Knight Dragon, Dragon Dark level 7/normal, 2350/2400. Cyber Dark Horn, take out Summon Skull. Yarden laughed. His monster howled and unleashed a beam of darkness from its maw, that swept over the Archfiend monster and blew it to pieces. Dimitri LP, 4800. Sayario, show that pansy magician what a real 2500 beast stick looks like, he continued. With a keening roar, Sayaru obeyed and opened its mouth wide open, unleashing a beam of energy that was countered by one fired from the Dark Magician's staff. Both beams met in the middle and swelled up into a giant sphere, before exploding outwards and consuming both monsters. And leaving Dimitri's. No, no! Dimitri cried out, almost pleadingly so. Yarden, had no mercy though. You wanna play with the big boys? Don't forget who the real king of the one-turn kill is around here. The red-clad obelisk blue taunted mercilessly, Serpent Knight Dragon, Burning Dragon, Baby Dragon, Arse Blaster attack. As one, each of the 3 dragons unleashed their respective flame breaths towards Dimitri. Dimitri screamed as the attacks swept over him, midway through the deep voice he'd put on, puttering out into his usual high-pitched one. And his life points dwindled to nothing. Dimitri LP, 0. There was a series of facepalms atop the cliff. Zane was not ashamed to admit he was included, alongside Jasmine and Alexis. Whereas, Jaden thought it was hilarious. But he noticed something odd. As Dimitri fell to his knees, banging his fists against the ground and lamenting his inability as a duelist, even with the King of Games deck to use, he swore that Serpent Knight Dragon turned and gave Yarden an almost insulted look, while the baby dragon was giggling. Before the trio dragons fizzled away with the end of the duel. Duelist profile, Yarden Odhar. Name, Yarden Odhar. Age, 15. Country of birth, Scotland. Significant other, Alexis Rhodes. Occupation, student of Duel Academy. Student dormitory, Obelisk Blue. Current funds, 200,750 DP. Bank account, £383,388. Bonded spirits. Ranryu, Decoy Dragon, Rare Metal Dragon, 100 Dragon, Spirit of the Breeze, Fairy Dragon, Chaos Necromancer, Soul Tiger, Larvae Moth, Griggle, Outstanding Dog Marin, Catnipped Kitty, Unhappy Maiden, Skull Servant, Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness, Goblin Calligrapher, Serpent Marauder, Blade Rabbit, Steel Scorpion, Dream Sprite, Relinquished. Abilities, massively enhanced physical parameters. Enhanced senses. Increased growth rate, Draconic Aura. Enhanced endurance. Enhanced recovery rate. Enhanced dexterity. Enhanced bone durability. Enhanced healing factor. Enhanced reflexes. Enhanced agility. Enhanced flexibility. Magic resistance. Energy absorption. Dex, Dragon Spirit, Magician Girl, Skull Archfiend, Mishmash. Chapter 27. There was a massive smirk on Yarden's face as he left the thief Yugi impersonator behind, leaving Cyrus and the watchers above to take care of returning the stolen deck. There were multiple reasons why he didn't stick around for his girlfriend and friends to make their way down. Number 1 being, he was excited. After all, he had footage of himself absolutely crushing the deck of the King of Games in a single turn. Sure, it wasn't Yugi himself that was dueling, but it was still his deck, and Dimitri had at least had a memorable and strong first turn. I can't believe he did that. Dark Magician Girl, floating along through the air beside him, was pouting. That's not how you use that deck at all. He dueled nothing like Yugi, it was like he was trying to be Kaiba, or you. Well, she wasn't wrong at least. That was nothing like any duel he'd seen Yugi in. Field swarming with powerful beat sticks was not at all his style. He could totally do it, but that wasn't what his deck, the reflection of his soul and heart in his cards, was about. It was very much a situation that Zane's whole knowing the difference between using and playing a card applied. Not that it mattered in the end, because the masses would only see a massive powerful lineup of the King of Games monsters and him obliterating them as if he was Big Daddy Exodia. Which was why he was quickly heading back to his dorm room. After the televised duel against the Paradox Brothers, his Academy Duelist profile page had seen a lot of traffic from outside parties. Once he posted the video of this duel on it personally, no doubt it was going to go viral. So much for the spirits in Yugi's deck refusing to give a bad show and make it tough for me, huh? Yarden laughed in amusement at the spirit floating alongside him. They didn't, that field of monsters was amazing, she protested cutely, that Dimitri guy is just an idiot master. The deck gave him exactly what he wanted, it's not their fault he didn't have any proper plans beyond delusions of grandeur and attempting to one-turn kill. Well, again, she wasn't wrong. It didn't make it any less funny though, or profitable for him. I blame you for this, Dark Magician Girl's pout deepened and she pointed her scepter at him. It's probably because of you swaggering around like a peacock, blowing everyone up and managing to snag the most popular girl in the school as your girlfriend that he thought that was the way to go and tried to imitate you. Maybe. Maybe not. Who could say? It wasn't like Yarden had any interest at all in Dimitri, to be honest. Still, he had to thank him. That duel against Yugi's deck had shown him two overpowered cards that he for sure wanted to get his hands on. Card of Last Will and Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand especially was an absolute bullshit card. Where did Yugi get that, by the way? He asked aloud. It was a gift from Pegasus, it's the only one of its kind, I'm afraid, master, she replied with a shrug before sticking her tongue out. Tough luck. Ah, well, that sucked. Well, there was always Card of Last Will at least. And, now that he thought about it, the version of Card of Demise in this world should be broken as well if it was the anime version. Definitely something to look into. Once he was back in his dorm room, Yarden wasted no time in making his way over to the laptop on the desk beside his bed, and plugging the video recorder into the USB port and transferring the video file he took over. Thankfully, since the duel was so short, it wasn't all that long or big of a clip, so it wouldn't take long before it was done and he could upload the footage straight to his Duelist profile. In less than an hour, he'd have it uploaded and his stonks would rise. Sitting back in his chair while the video file transferred over, Yarden crossed his right leg over his left knee and clasped his fingers together, his head resting against the headrest and his eyes locking upon the ceiling. Maybe it's time I start looking into things outside the academy? He mused. He had a good nest egg of cash that he was sitting on right now. And some of the morals of this world were quite wonky. A lot of that mostly due to Seto Kaiba, mind you, but he could make use of them. Like the fact that he could own property despite his age. With the money I have now, I could buy some cheap properties and get mortgages on them, he thought. Probably not something he'd have usually looked into, but most of his family before he ended up here in this world were amongst the trade of doing up houses, from builders to tilers to joiners. He was actually expected to take up a similar trade upon graduating high school. As it was, he at the very least knew the basics of buying and selling property. And the fact of the matter was, in this world, it was the year 2004. When the pound was still a superpower and worth more than double that of the dollar. And properties back home were way, way cheaper than anything in the likes of, say, America. Sitting forward in his chair, Yarden brought up the internet browser on the laptop, before bringing up a website detailing property for sale in his old hometown. And there, one of the first in the listings was a small 2-bedroom home with a small front garden and backyard, going for £13,000. It already had a tenant too who was paying £350 a month to stay there. Admittedly, looking at the photos taken, the furniture and wallpaper were a little out of date, but it was still a nice place. He could buy that, get it mortgaged for that estimated £13,000 or around there, get the money he paid back and have that £13,000 or so mortgage debt be paid off by the tenant living there and own the property, which he could sell at any time. And if the property scene was anything like it would be in a few years, as it was back home, then going by what he'd learned, then this property could easily increase 5 times in value, more if the place got did up. And if things went tits up, he could always duel his way out of debt. Because that was also the kind of logic this world worked on. Thanks to Kaiba. Thanks Kaiba. Problem is I don't have the time to deal with shit like this. Yarden mused, stroking his chin. Not to mention, he was halfway across the world from the property he would own. Actually, could he even purchase it while not being anywhere close? Maybe he should look into getting an assistant of some kind? He would need it soon. It was actually beginning to get tedious to go through his emails. He already had people emailing him with sponsorship deals, offers to tour other duel schools around the world, and even duel agencies trying to scout him. Zane had told him it was the same for him, albeit he hadn't started getting the kind of attention Yarden did until he was well into his second year, but still. As it was, a lot of the things he wanted cost a shitload of money. Like, for example, a nice big mansion with an awesome pool and hopefully a jacuzzi. And of course, a big piece of private land around it. He'd need such a place for his hot girlfriend to lounge in a tiny bikini, and her friends. And of course, the private property, with hopefully a lot of green around it, would be ideal for a lot of his spirits to relax and spend their time. But beyond that, there were stupid rare and powerful cards that cost an arm and a leg, and even that incredible new dual disc Kaiba came out with not long ago. He didn't even understand how it worked fully, beyond that it was connected to something called the Crystal Cloud Network that eliminated the need for the physical deck to be present in a duel, albeit one needed to upload the data of cards they owned into the dual disc to use them. And it allowed the user to project virtual cards onto the world. But even beyond the aspect of dueling with them, they came with a neural link thing that not only uploaded the information of their cards to their brain, but allowed them to project images from their mind on reality like an illusion and connect their brain to the fucking web and all manner of crazy shit. Kaiba really was that guy, completely next level. While a lot of the technology in this world was still progressing at the same rate as the one he came from, Kaiba was literally centuries ahead with full-on real virtual reality deep dive technology. Then again, this was the man that flew around in a Blue Eyes White Dragon jet that was not at all aerodynamic and should have been impossible to fly. He even had a fucking card based on his jet. Literally called the Blue Eyes White Jet, with 3,000 attack points and 0 defense points. And from what he'd seen of its brief use in clips, it was absolutely fucking broken. While it was on the field, other cards Kaiba controlled couldn't be targeted by card effects. If another Blue Eyes card was on the field, it could be special summoned from the hand or graveyard, and during the battle phase, if it attacked, Kaiba could pick one card on his opponent's field and return it to the hand. Like seriously, what kind of absolute broken bullshit was that? And that was just a card based on his jet, not his actual Blue Eyes, of which there were many, many more cards that he'd never heard of before coming to this world. Fucking Kaiba. What a crazy, amazing bastard. Hell, from what he'd learned, apparently the guy had literally built a space elevator? For whatever Kaiba reason. Maybe he built it to host meetings to duel with aliens or something? Just Kaiba doing Kaiba things. One day it would be Yarden doing Yarden things. Well, either way, that new dual disc of Kaiba's cost over £1 million. He was quite a ways off of affording one. A knock on his door drew him from his thoughts. HM? Yarden wondered who it was for a moment, before shrugging and getting up. It could be anyone really. Hell, people knocked on his door constantly all day every day, to challenge him to a duel and put him in his place. All they ended up doing was giving him more DP and cementing that his place was above them though. Making his way towards the door, he pulled it open and was pleasantly surprised to find his girlfriend. Hey! Alexis greeted him, making her way inside after pausing to kiss him on the cheek. Odd, it wasn't really like her to show up here at this time. Though mostly because of his annoying dormmates going into a frenzy whenever she did and were liable to start humping the air, the walls, the floor, whatever was in sight really after catching a glimpse of her. People here were weird, man. Well, it was most likely to do with Dimitri. What's up? He smiled at her after closing the door. Here to congratulate me on completely owning Yugi's deck. Yeah, I figured you knew we were watching. Alexis rolled her eyes with a smile, shaking her head. Looks like karma didn't bite you in the ass today, huh? Yarden shrugged and walked over to her, sliding his arms around her waist as he reached her and clasping his hands behind her back, before giving her a grin. Considering I was stopping a thief from stealing someone else's deck, karma would actually be on my side in that situation, you know, he pointed out. Not the kind of karma we were thinking of back there, or well, Jasmine at least, Alexis snorted, lifting her arms and wrapping them around his neck before leaning forward to press her lips against his briefly. So, Cyrus said you had a video camera with you and had him record your duel with Dimitri. Anything you want to share? She asked as she pulled back, arching an eyebrow. Yarden raised an eyebrow at her, before grinning. Sure, he said and shrugged, before his hands slid down and dipped under her skirt, to come up and cup her full, soft-ass cheeks and give them a squeeze. You look especially sexy when you're in detective mode. Alexis merely deadpanned at him, before rolling her eyes. She leaned into his hold, pressing her soft chest against his own. Fess up, there's no way you went out there on a stroll and just so happened to come across Dimitri with a video camera after he'd stolen Yugi's deck. You knew he stole it, didn't you? I might have, Yarden laughed lightly, grin widening a bit. I figured it was a sure bet some idiot was going to do it. There's a surplus of them on this island, so I planned to take advantage of that fact and use it to my benefit, and now I have a video of me curb stomping Yugi's deck. People will go wild for it and my stock as a duelist in the pro leagues is gonna skyrocket. Of course you did, that seems about right with you, Alexis snorted. Plans within plans within plans with you, huh? If it weren't for how blunt, upfront and everything you've let me in on, I'd almost be tempted to think you only wanted to date me for clout of being with a candidate for the Queen of Duel Academy. For once, Yarden was thrown for a bit of a loop. What the fuck is the Queen of Duel Academy? He gave her a confused look. Alexis laughed. Just a silly popularity contest I had no interest in until I started dating you. Don't worry about it, she replied. I just decided to learn a bit from your example and upping my chances of going pro later, and as you just said, building up my stock. This is the first time I've heard anything about a popularity contest. Yarden confessed, especially for something sounding that grand? Well, no, it sounds stupid and kind of cringe, a lot like Zane's whole Kaiser thing, but if it boosts your chances I'm all for it, just not sure how I missed something that seems that big? I guess. Of course you did, Alexis scoffed, eyes dancing with amusement. All the other guys hate you for the most part, and the two you hang around with beyond me and the girls are Zane and Jaden. Two people have zero, no less than zero interest in something like that. Huh, well that made sense. Actually, on that topic, did you know there's an official hate club for me now? He asked with a laugh. I do actually, I got a petition from them a few days ago signed with over 50 names. A petition for me to stop dating you, Alexis giggled. It was kind of sad and I ended up laughing by mistake. And they kind of ran off before I could even say anything after that. Wait, what? Suddenly I find myself with the need to pay their club He trailed off thoughtfully. Greeting? Alexis suggested. Beating, pay them a beating, he corrected her, maybe break a few legs, feed some of their souls to Serpent Knight Dragon, that kind of thing. Why would I want to eat such feeble weak souls? Serpent Knight Dragon scoffed. Well, you do that, Alexis nodded. Beyond that, I hope you're planning on blurring out Dimitri's face in that video. Otherwise, he's gonna get expelled. Yarden raised an eyebrow at her again, confused once more. Why, he found himself asking, I don't really care either way, but the guy's a thief, stole someone else's deck like that Titan fuck tried with you, a crime you know? Not quite the same, he wasn't really malicious about it, Alexis pointed out. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be punished, but he's gonna get kicked out and get lambasted by practically the whole world if it gets out he stole Yugi's deck. He's just a stupid idiot. I don't really want to see someone's life go to hell over just one silly mistake. A pretty big mistake. Stealing Yugi's deck was akin to, in the dueling world, stealing the Mona Lisa or something. It was a big, big deal. Not that he cared about that, rather. But I'm gonna have to download editing software to do it, it'll take hours. Yarden then proceeded to whine. Ah, poor baby, Alexis pat his cheek, want me to kiss it better? Yes, Yarden nodded unashamedly, actually fine, I'll do it, but you gotta stay here tonight. That's not a sacrifice on my part, I've done it a few times already, remember? Alexis pointed out, but that's fine with me, you big baby, I'll need to go grab my clothes for tomorrow though and come back. Pick up some sexy underwear while you're there, he suggested. I'll think about it. Alexis merely snorted. Well, you're coming back late, a familiar, annoying voice spoke up behind Alexis as she stepped into girls' dorm and closed the door. Out having a little late-night rendezvous with your boy toy? Alexis resisted the urge to sigh in annoyance. Something like that. Alexis turned around to face the speaker, crossing her arms. Not that it's any business of yours, she added, staring daggers. Leaning against the wall was a third-year obelisk blue girl, curvy, with short black hair and pale green eyes. I dunno about that, Odhar is the talk of the school these days, Saika Kohinid amused with a smirk on her face. Rumor has it he's the best duelist in the school now, some people are saying he's even beaten Zane. Quite amazing for a first year who's only been here a few months, he's got a lot of eyes on him. And what of it? Alexis arched an eyebrow challengingly. Like I said, it has nothing to do with you. Oh, I think it has everything to do with me. What with you trying to usurp me from my rightful place as queen, Saika scoffed. You've been getting a bit too big for your britches lately, Alexis. All those idiots praising you as the most beautiful girl in the academy, and now you're dating the possible best duelist in the school and you decide to throw your hat in the ring after you get with him? I'm not an idiot, none of the other girls are. Could have fooled me, Alexis scoffed. You vapid twits running around treating this place like a beauty contest pisses me off. I simply decided to take a page out of Yarden's book and use this little popularity contest to my benefit for when I go pro. Ever since she decided to toss her name in properly as a candidate for the Queen of Duel Academy, this idiot and a few others like the second year, that slutty Missy girl who was rumored to have slept with a few of her male opponents into having them take a dive and was obsessed with Zane had started bothering her here and there. None more annoying than this bitch here. This was the first time she'd confronted her alone, but her subtle comments calling Yarden cute, dishy, and other such nonsense in her hearing range to try and goad her had been going on for over a week now. It was such juvenile nonsense, Alexis had just been ignoring it. You're such an arrogant little bitch, Alexis. You've been looking down on the other girls interested in this kind of thing since you got here, and now you think you can just waltz in at last minute and claim the crown? Saika scoffed, pushing off the wall and marching towards her. You've got the personal backing of one of the two strongest guys here and think you can do whatever you want, huh? As if, Alexis snorted, the reason I look down on you twits is simply because of the fact this is a school for dueling, yet you all spend your time obsessing over being popular and romance and other stupid crap like that. Yet you're the only one with a boyfriend between us right now and the one who decided to jump in and try and claim the crown, Saika huffed, turning her nose up at her. I wonder how confident you'll be if I let you know Missy has taken an interest in Odhar and wants to steal him from you? And I won't lie, I have a bit of a one myself. With his strength as a duelist and my position as queen, we would make quite the power couple, right? Leave Yarden out of this. Alexis' face pulled up into a near snarl. Actually, stay away from my boyfriend, you stupid hussy, or we're gonna have a real problem. Never in a million years did Alexis even think she would utter such words. Worse was the fact that she felt genuine rage burning in her at this stupid bitch's words. Stupid Yarden. She had absolutely zero interest, less than zero interest even in the nonsense of romance and things like that before she met him. Would she get in trouble if she took a page out of Yarden's book and punched this smug bitch in the face? We already have a real problem, Saika sneered. Newsflash, it's you. If you bow out of the competition though, I might be nice and let you keep him. Only might though, I've got some real uses for him and those arms of his are quite delicious looking. Might be nice to have strong arms like that wrapped around me while sleeping in bed. Alexis released a deep shuddering breath. Is that right? Her response was eerily calm. Despite the boiling unyielding rage beginning to build in her veins at this complete and utter bitch's words. Jasmine and Mindy were one thing. They were her friends, like sisters to her actually. They'd been together since before they were 10 years old. And she didn't want to come between their relationship with Yarden just because they were dating. This bitch on the other hand? A whole different story. Quite, Saika smirked at her proudly. Between us girls, how big is he? You know? Down th kaya ah. Saika's smug voice turned into a squealing yelp as Alexis' hand roughly grabbed her by her shiny black locks and dragged her forward into a punch that rocked her chin and made her hit the ground. Alexis lunged down, straddling the older girl's stomach and slapped her across the face, then again before Saika managed to cross her arms over her face to protect herself and begin flailing beneath her while screaming, "Huh, what's that?" Nothing else to say. Alexis shouted as she reached over her arms to pull at her hair while trying to slap her over and over with her other hand. No more smart comments about my boyfriend? Ha, you vapid whore. Yarden was such a bad influence on her. But Alexis was too angry to care with what Saika had said to her. She only stopped when the other girls were attracted by the commotion and Jasmine and Mindy rushed over to pull her off of Saika. I wonder if I could sell the idea of writing duels to Kaiba or something. Yarden mused to himself, laying on his side on his huge soft green couch, head propped up on his fist as he watched the Kaibaman Rising movie on the massive television provided for his dorm room. It was going to take an hour or so before the software he needed to edit the video he recorded was done downloading, so he was passing the time until Alexis got back. Once she was here, he'd have a lot more pleasant of a time for sure. And maybe tonight they could go a little further? The most they'd done so far was a bit of heavy petting. He didn't want to rush her, but God was it hard with how much of a babe she was. There wasn't a day that went by where he didn't want to rail her silly. Alexis was just too hot for her, or rather his own good man. He was actually quite proud of himself for having the self-control not to push her too fast. This was her first relationship after all. Her feelings were more important than his raging dick. Could I even get a motorbike brought here? Yarden wondered. He could definitely afford one, but did people even deliver motorbikes? He wasn't worried about not being old enough to have a license. He could just duel for the rights to drive it. Honestly, with how lax were things on Duel Academy, Shepard would probably let him drive it around no fuss. Actually, he had no idea how to go around transforming a motorcycle into a D-wheel actually. Maybe he could find a mechanic dual spirit somewhere? Or actually, there were a few motorbike monsters out there, maybe he could just find a spirit for one of them and then summon it to ride after bonding with it? First he'd need to patent the idea though. And then run it by Kaiba Corp and hopefully Kaiba. It was extreme dueling, Kaiba would totally be into it. And as the one behind the idea, there was a great chance for him to make bank off of the idea. A ding from his PDA brought him out of his thoughts. Lifting his arm, Yarden concentrated for a moment, before a small fluffy brown dog popped into existence on the table a few feet away from where he lay, where his PDA sat. Without needing to be told anything, Marin picked their device up in his mouth before hopping over to him and dropping it beside him. Good boy. Yarden praised the canine dual spirit, petting him on the head. Marin barked happily, before curling up in a ball and laying against his stomach. Yarden fondly patted the dog spirit's head a little bit more, before reaching over to pick up his PDA to see who messaged him. It was Alexis. Sorry babe, I won't be able to come back over, or see you the rest of the weekend actually. I'm being confined to my dorm room and I have detention all next week for getting into a fight. Wait, what? Yarden blinked and stared at the message in utter confusion. Duelist profile, Yarden Odhar. Name, Yarden Odhar. Age, 15. Country of birth, Scotland. Significant other, Alexis Rhodes. Occupation, student of Duel Academy. Student dormitory, Obelisk Blue. Current funds, 200,950 DP. Bank account, £383,388. Bonded spirits. Ranryu, Decoy Dragon, Rare Metal Dragon, 100 Dragon, Spirit of the Breeze, Fairy Dragon, Chaos Necromancer, Soul Tiger, Larvae Moth, Griggle, Outstanding Dog Marin, Catnipped Kitty, Unhappy Maiden, Skull Servant, Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness, Goblin Calligrapher, Serpent Marauder, Blade Rabbit, Steel Scorpion, Dream Sprite, Relinquished. Abilities, massively enhanced physical parameters. Enhanced senses. Increased growth rate, Draconic Aura. Enhanced endurance. Enhanced recovery rate. Enhanced dexterity. Enhanced bone durability. Enhanced healing factor. Enhanced reflexes. Enhanced agility. Enhanced flexibility. Magic resistance. Energy absorption. Dex, Dragon Spirit, Magician Girl, Skull Archfiend, Mishmash. Chapter 28. Settle down, people, attention please. Shepard's voice rang out loudly and clearly over the gathered assembly of students. The Chancellor of Duel Academy peered down at near every student gathered in the main hall of Duel Academy through a video projection. Shepard sighed, before snapping, "Chumley, stop chewing with your mouth open." Early Monday morning found Yarden gathered with the rest of the students, first through third years, for an assembly of some sort and for an important announcement they'd been notified of through a mass message to every student's PDA. The students were gathered in 3 groups differentiated by dorm, lined up in lines of 4 by 4, younger years towards the front, older towards the back. Honestly, it was almost military in a way. Nothing at all like assemblies back home where everyone just sat wherever the hell they wanted. Duel Academy was pretty big on the near-racist classes in between the dorms. When he became the next Kaiba, he'd try not to let his petty biases affect him like this. Though, knowing himself, that was pretty unlikely. He could still try though. As it was though, Yarden was pretty much already well aware of what this assembly was for, and there was a massive shit-eating grin on his face. Though not for what was about to be announced at all. "Stop smiling like that." Jasmine huffed from his left side. He was in a line of 4 between himself, Jasmine to his left, Mindy to her left and Alexis to his right. "No can do." Yarden merely snorted in pure amusement. He couldn't help it. And the reason for that? Was because of the girl to his right who was obstinately staring ahead, cheeks flushed and refusing to meet his eyes. His weekend had been pretty much a flop. He couldn't hang out with his girlfriend at all. Because she'd been confined to her dorm room all weekend. And would also be serving a detention every day for the next 2 weeks after classes. Because she'd gotten into a fight. Yes, a fight, not a duel. Over him. And she'd beat the crap out of the girl who she was fighting with. He looked over his shoulder briefly to glance to Alexis' seeming opponent, a rather pretty older girl with curves that stretched out her uniform deliciously, though not on Alexis' level. And the shiner currently bruising one of her eyes. He couldn't help it, he laughed to himself even as Shepard began speaking once more. "Good, now that everyone is listening and eating quietly, I'm happy to inform you the big matchup against our rival school, North Academy, is coming up," the Chancellor stated, and as he did, a beacon of light shone down from the ceiling and shone upon someone behind Yarden. He didn't even need to look to see who it was, even as most others did. "Last year our student rep Zane hooped them good and proper, and this time I want to win the school duel once again," he continued, a smug smile showing on the bald-headed man's face. The man must really love having gotten that kiss on the cheek by Dorothy instead of the headmaster of North Academy. Actually, what about the West and South Duel Academies? Yarden wondered briefly, why were they not considered rivals? He knew Zane had toured the West one last year for a few months when he was in his second year, as the older boy had told him about his time there and said there were a few decent duelists there, though the headmaster gave him an odd feeling and was kind of creepy to him. Well, whatever, it probably wasn't important. Shepard shook his head before pushing on. "Now we still haven't figured out quite yet who is going to represent us this time around in the school duel this year, so if you keep hitting those books and dueling hard, it could be any one of you in that spot and earning glory." He said a few other things, before bidding them goodbye and the feed cut off, the massive screen going dark. Excited whispers and muttering kicked up, though one voice stood out to Yarden above all. "Hey, did you hear?" Jaden's familiar excited voice chattered and Yarden's eyes flickered over to find him standing behind Cyrus, who was standing next to an even shorter red-clad student, a beret-like hat clasped tightly upon their head. "It could be me in that sweet duel." Wait, wasn't that Blair?" "Oh right, it was about that time as well, wasn't it?" Well, Yarden didn't really care about her, to be honest. He'd let Jaden deal with her. "He wishes," Jasmine snorted. "I'll admit he's good, but it's most likely gonna be Zane again, and if not it's definitely gonna be you, Yarden. You're the best duelist here." "I am," Yarden accepted her words humbly, before shrugging. "I wouldn't underestimate Jaden though, he's good, especially now that he's upgraded his deck more." He'd only seen Jaden duel briefly so far while he was here. But every time he did, he could practically feel it. The air vibrating around him with the sheer amount of power he exuded in excitement. He was ignorant towards it now, everyone was. Hell, he'd been ignorant towards it a few weeks ago, even until he started getting coached on drawing upon his abilities by Dark Magician Girl, but when he first felt the sheer amount of power Jaden exuded, he'd actually almost passed out. It was like a massive pressure had pressed down upon his shoulders and stole the breath from his lungs now that he was aware of it that first time. Even just casually, it was far more than he'd have even a few weeks from now when he'd fully bonded with all his spirits. Which he supposed made sense. The light of destruction was a cosmic force beyond even the god cards and was multiple tiers above the likes of Zork. As the Supreme King, Jaden had within his soul the power of the gentle darkness, the force directly equal and opposed to the light of destruction. But beyond that, Jaden was just that good. One thing he'd noticed was that the stronger a duelist his opponent was, the more Jaden delved deeper into his deck. For most, he barely went beyond Flame Wingman, Rampart Blaster, or the Thunder Giant. And even usage of them had dwindled now that he had access to the likes of Heat, Lady Heat, and Stratos. With them he rarely needed to bust out any of his fusions, never mind heavy hitters. Jaden was different from him. He loved dueling in the sense that he would hold back on weaker opponents to keep the duel going longer, when if he wanted he could pull out the likes of Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman or Elemental Hero Gaia, or Tornado, or Flare Master, or even just Elemental Hero Blade Edge and monsters like that incredibly easily. As it was, in a casual duel with no true stakes beyond competition, Yarden was pretty sure he could beat Jaden. But in a full stakes duel with things on the line? That was where he was iffy. Well, he did beat Lexi after all, Mindy pointed out, breaking him from his thoughts. That puts him like at least top 5, right? I don't think I'm quite that high up actually. Alexis finally turned to face them, though there was an embarrassed look in her eyes when he looked straight into her gaze. No, that's about right for now, Yarden agreed with Mindy, even as he reached his arm over Alexis' shoulders, and enjoyed as he felt simmering glares being fired at him from all directions. See then mauled cucks, see then mauled, as far as I'd say, right now from 1st to 5th it would be me, then Zane, then Jaden, then Alexis, then probably Bastion, I'm thinking. The stuffy RA? Jasmine asked. Bastion is pretty good actually, yeah, I'm not sure I could beat him definitively. Alexis nodded as she leaned into him, touching her shoulder to his. Nah, Alexis was better. The thing was, Bastion tried to play like a meta player, with a very limited source of materials of research unlike the meta players back home, and completely forgot that it wasn't just a mere card game that ran on numbers and probability. Duel Monsters as a whole was keyed into the laws of this literal universe. For the truly powerful in this world, it didn't matter if Bastion locked their entire deck down, had them down to one card with a full field of monsters that couldn't be targeted by effects and a full back row. The truly powerful here could will that single card into being one that would win the duel. And because Bastion ran purely on logic, numbers and mathematics, trying to build decks that upped the odds of drawing what he needed, including searchers and such, he was always going to be the biggest jobber there was as far as GX went. While it didn't help that he was a bit of a stuffy repressed virgin that would fall in love with the first girl to show an interest in him even if they were like twice his age and had bigger muscles than Arnie and get all flushed to the point where he couldn't think straight. Bastion was his own biggest enemy, poor fucker. Soon enough, the students began to be cleared out of the assembly hall and be directed towards their classrooms. But, just as they were, Dr. Growler called out, Zane, Yarden, he called their names specifically, can you two stay behind please? There's something I'd like to discuss with you both. Called it. Jasmine snorted. Yeah, it wasn't very subtle now, was it? I'll see you in class, I guess? Alexis said, picking up on it as well, while Mindy giggled in amusement. Sure, Yarden agreed, leaning forward to peck her on the lips, and you can tell me all about this fight you got into, it sounds amazing. Was it wrong of him to be pleased and proud of her for getting into a fight? Especially when from what little he'd put together, it was about him in some form. Alexis pouted at him, I'll think about it. She turned away from him embarrassedly, before quickly walking away. You're a real bad influence on her, you know that? Jasmine pointed out, rolling her eyes, I can't believe our Lexi got into a fight, a cat fight. And that she threw the first hit even. I think it's kinda sweet actually, Mindy pointed out. Besides, from what Alexis told us, that bitch Psycha totally deserved a good slapping. Well yes, but still. Jasmine crossed her arms. Lexi has detention. Lexi, she's never had detention in her life, and now the second she has a boyfriend she's getting into fights and getting them. It's totally weird, though even as she said that, there was a big grin on her face. Well, I'm a bad delinquent boy after all, like you said, a total bad influence on a good girl like Alexis. Yarden smirked smugly. Now I just need to be a bad influence on you too when my work is complete. Oh please, Jasmine rolled her eyes, keep dreaming you dork. Beyond swearing and getting into a few fights to help us, you're hardly a delinquent. You're always on time to class, you never take part in any of the adventures we've gotten up to in the past month or so, you always talk about rules and logic, and you're always in your dorm before curfew. Jaden's a delinquent, you're more like a potty-mouthed exceptionally muscled nerd. Now go see what Growler wants, teacher's pet. Eh? He was a nerd? A teacher's pet? Him? Soon, Jasmine and Mindy bid him goodbye and made their way to follow Alexis back to their class, leaving only Zane, Dr. Growler and himself in the hall. He stared after them, gaping. I'm a nerd? A geek? A teacher's pet? Those thoughts swirled around in Yarden's brain. And did not compute at all. Is that what people thought of him here? The world-shattering revelation Jasmine dropped on Yarden had him following after Growler and Zane in a daze. One might have even confused him with a nasty zombie-only card player instead of the Chadley freestyle user he was. Zane gave him an odd look, but didn't comment as Growler led them from the assembly hall to his office. Now boys, I'm sure the two of you, as intelligent as you both are Growler began as he took a seat behind his desk, only to pause as he saw the state of the boy clad in red. Yarden, my dear boy? What's the matter? You look like someone just stole your best card. Yarden blinked. Zane, doctor. He addressed them, before trailing off for a moment. He took a second to sigh, before he asked a most vital question. Am I a nerd? A teacher's pet? What? Zane's cool guy emotionless facade actually broke for a moment, and he gave Yarden a weird look. I do concur. Growler gave him a taken aback look, a confused look in his eyes. What brought this on, might I ask? Something Jasmine just told me. Yarden sighed and shrugged, shoulders slumping. She said Jaden is more of a delinquent bad boy than me. And said I'm just a potty-mouthed nerd who always abides by the rules, and I'm always on time for class and stuff, and that I'm a huge teacher's pet. That can't be right. He beat up a literal mercenary and stole his stuff. He beat up armed goons that were part of an illegal research station on the island. He got shit-faced drunk and gambled. He blackmailed the headmaster even into giving him Cyber Dark Dragon. It might have sounded and looked silly to be worrying over such a thing, childish even. But it was a big deal to him. His whole dueling persona going forward was being the bad boy. The dashing lovable rogue. Not the unstylish glasses, suspenders and pocket handkerchief guy. Well, if Jaden is the standard for a bad boy, then indeed I dare say you are the farthest thing from a bad boy. Dr. Growler harumphed and Yarden resisted the urge to grasp his chest in phantom pain. He's a bad, lazy no good boy. An utter buffoonish slacker. He sleeps through more than 50% of his classes, doesn't turn up for a third of them. And he's not turned in a single completed assignment this entire semester. He even eats mid-class. Eats. Somewhere along the way the reply to Yarden's question turned into a rant about the sheer amount of stupid things Jaden did in Growler's eyes. And admittedly, he kind of did have a point when it was laid out like that. Wow, she really gave you a dose of emotional damage, didn't she? Dark Magician Girl giggled in his ear, Ni-erared. Even the voices in his head were calling him a nerd now. Growler sighed as he finished ranting about Jaden, though only because he needed to catch his breath. He could be doing with some cardio training, to be honest. Well, regardless, I wouldn't exactly call you a nerd as dear Jasmine did, but compared to Jaden you are indeed a model student. I couldn't be more proud to have you in my obelisk blue dorm. Dr. Growler beamed at him. You are consistently at the very top of our dueling theory classes, you never miss vital classes. You've not missed a single assignment, and while admittedly for the standard general classes you started off somewhere in the middle, you have admirably risen to the upper tier of you year. Indeed, nothing at all like that slifer slacker Jaden. Damn it, he really was a nerd. Why was being a bad boy and doing good in school polar opposites? What was wrong with taking education seriously when it was at a premier place like this? Did a guy need to start wearing electric shock collars and walk around in big black leather trench coats or dusters to get a little props around here? Admittedly, that coat of Zane's was damn stylish. Edgy as is all hell, but that shiny black coloring and the silver trim through it just looked damn good. I wonder if he has it right now in his closet, or is it something he picked up later? Yarden wondered, eyes flickering to Zane for a brief moment, who was just looking at him with a bemused smile, laughter dancing in his eyes. He thought the whole discussion and Growler all but confirming he was a real proper nerd was amusing, didn't he? Bastard. He was totally gonna raid his closet and steal his jacket if it was actually already in his possession for that. It wasn't like he'd need it anyway. He wouldn't be getting the cyber dark dragons for his edgy phase, those were in Yarden's possession. And honestly, them and the jacket went hand in hand, right? An iconic duo, so he deserved the jacket. It was rightfully his even. A clap brought him from his thoughts to Dr. Growler. Anyway, funnily enough, your merits as a top-tier student, and Zane's of course is why I asked you both to follow me here. The blonde teacher smiled brightly at them. I'm sure you both already suspect, but it's about the school duel. Usually, as it has the previous 2 years, the role generally would have fallen to Zane as the undisputed best duelist in all of Duel Academy, but now there's a true contender for that spot, no? Not really, Dr. Growler. Zane shook his head. As things stand right now, Yarden is my better. If we dueled right now, I wouldn't be able to win. For the moment at least. He nodded his head to Yarden. Yarden is the top duelist of Duel Academy right now, so I think he should take the spot in the school duel, he said. Besides, I heard through the grapevine that North Academy is sending a first year this time around. It's only fair that another first year faces off against them. For the moment, huh? Yarden couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Indeed? Growler's eyebrows rose in astonishment, before his big purple painted lips twisted into a massive smile. Well then, that makes things simpler, I suppose. Yarden, you will be the one representing us in the school duel then. Congratulations. Yeah, about that. How about no? He'd already long since considered that he would be nominated for the spot. Though, he'd thought he'd have to duel Jaden or Bastion or something for the spot. And he'd already long since decided to take his name out of the running. Admittedly, that was only a decision he made after he defeated the Baldy Boys, aka the Paradox Brothers. About that, Dr. Growler, Yarden smiled at the man, even as he prepared to crush his happiness and expectations. I don't think I should. I've been getting a lot of limelight lately. I think I should take a step back from this one. The other students might think the academy likes to play favorites and give you teachers an unfavorable reputation. Perhaps another first year should take the spot in the school duel. Nailed it. That was earnest and seemingly well-meaning, right? Ho! Zane raised an eyebrow at him. Hi-ya! Dr. Growler gaped at him. And while you have very valid reasons to dislike him, it's important we win the school duel, Yarden continued with a nod. How about giving the spot to Jaden? Dr. Growler went stock still, and his already pale skin somehow lightened even further. He looked like he was having a nightmare. Jaden? Zane's second eyebrow joined the first, not Bastion? Or Alexis? Bastion would probably just lose. Yarden shrugged, and didn't mention Alexis. Simply because Alexis would have eyes on her as well after the duel with the Paradox Baldies. Which meant the odds wouldn't be stacked against her. And in fact, since she was known for being part of the tag team that took down the Baldy twins, the odds would favor her. But a Slifer Red being put up against the top of North Academy, and one of the famous and rich Princeton brothers? Well, the odds wouldn't quite be like his and Alexis against the Baldy Boys, but they'd be pretty well against Jaden. And Bastion again would just lose. He might have beaten Chaz before, but Chaz had dual spirits now. Sure, just a single Ojama at this point, but that was leagues higher than Bastion when it came to plot armor. Or spirit shenanigans. Same thing really. So, Zane struck up a conversation as soon as they exited Dr. Growler's office a while later, the man being completely unresponsive after name-dropping Jaden as a candidate for the school duel. It was kind of melodramatic, to be honest. What are you really planning? What scheme have you thought up this time? Scheme? Me? Yarden gave him an innocent look. Can't I just be the nice guy I am and want to help out another fellow student to get their name out there? Maybe if it was Alexis, I'd believe what you said, Zane snorted, crossing his arms, but since it isn't, I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit. What are you really after? No faith at all, huh? Yarden snorted. Maybe I'd believe you if another of your little schemes didn't go viral over the weekend. Zane shook his head with a smirk. You predicted someone would be foolish enough to steal Yugi's deck and put off going with us to check the deck out, so you could instead record yourself beating Yugi's deck. And if you could predict that, then I'm sure you've already predicted that you would be nominated for the school duel. Damn, that made him sound a lot smarter than he really was, didn't it? Future knowledge sure was useful. And he wasn't wrong about that video against Dimitri going viral. He'd uploaded it both to his Duelist page profile and to the web itself, and in total it had gotten over 10 million views. Which in of itself was awesome because he'd monetized that shit. Which should get him a good 50 grand more added to his bank. And of course, it boosted his fame even more. His prospects and stunts just kept rising. Well, I suppose you're not wrong, Yarden shrugged, but it's pretty simple to be honest. I've got a lot more money to my name now, and I've saved up a ton of DP I can be more liberal with. Ah, Zane nodded as realization shone in his eyes, the bookies, huh? You want to make more money. But if you personally took part in it, the odds would be massively against your opponent instead of you, so unless you tossed your pride and took a fall, there would be little money to be made. Zane cocked his head to the side. Weird though, if you predicted all this, then you should realize the money going in both sides wouldn't come close to the amount trading hands when it was you and Alexis against the Paradox brothers, he noted, that is, unless you know something I don't? Like say Chaz being the representative of North Academy and his brothers going to broadcast it live to the entire world? And had already begun advertising it? Advertisements that were hyping the shit out of Chaz? For their big play into making him a famous, successful duelist? The odds of course still wouldn't reach the same tier as the Paradox brothers against him and Alexis, but he also had a shit ton more money in DP to play around with now to make up for that. Maybe, Yarden smirked, I'm sure there's a lot of things I know that you don't. Like, did you know Scotland was the first country in the world to allow girls to attend proper schools? Is that right? Zane snorted, throwing his catchphrase back at him. Should he sue? Can he got a saying copyrighted? Fine, putting that aside, there's something else going on with you, that I think I'm entitled to an explanation of. So it was already that time, huh? Honestly, he half expected it to have come up days before now. But he supposed Dimitri was the first person Zane had seen him use them against. The cyber dark dragons, huh? Yarden asked. Yes. Zane said simply. Well, fair enough. He wanted to pick Zane's brain anyway about an agency to represent him and handle his affairs for him. He already had his eyes on one who'd sent him an offer after looking through them over the weekend. Gardner Agencies. Duelist profile, Yarden Odhar. Name, Yarden Odhar. Age, 15. Country of birth, Scotland. Significant other, Alexis Rhodes. Occupation, student of Duel Academy. Student dormitory, Obelisk Blue. Current funds, 950 DP. Bank account, £383,388. Bonded spirits, Ranryu, Decoy Dragon, Rare Metal Dragon, 100 Dragon, Spirit of the Breeze, Fairy Dragon, Chaos Necromancer, Soul Tiger, Larvae Moth, Griggle, Outstanding Dog Marin, Catnipped Kitty, Unhappy Maiden, Skull Servant, Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness, Goblin Calligrapher, Serpent Marauder, Blade Rabbit, Steel Scorpion, Dream Sprite, Relinquished. Abilities, massively enhanced physical parameters. Enhanced senses. Increased growth rate, Draconic Aura. Enhanced endurance. Enhanced recovery rate. Enhanced dexterity. Enhanced bone durability. Enhanced healing factor. Enhanced reflexes. Enhanced agility. Enhanced flexibility. Magic resistance. Energy absorption. Dex, Dragon Spirit, Magician Girl, Skull Archfiend, Mishmash. Chapter 29. As was typical of Zane and his aloof attitude, he led Yarden to an out-of-the-way spot where they could talk alone without anyone overhearing them. That being the roof of Duel Academy, where they could more or less behold the entire island. It was quite the view actually. "You know we have class, right?" Yarden pointed out. Like, he didn't especially mind skipping a class or two, but he hadn't exactly planned this out. And he'd rather skip on a day where they'd be doing actual work, and not today that was going to be pretty much free periods to chill all day. "And you wonder why Jasmine called you a nerd?" Zane rolled his eyes, crossing his arms. "Don't worry, teacher's pet, Growler will have excused us for this period, not that it'd matter for today anyway." "I'll punch you, I really will." Yarden deadpanned. "Press X to doubt." Zane smirked at him. This bastard, that was a saying he picked up from him. For a moment after that, neither of them said anything. And they just let silence hang in the air between them. Finally though, after nearly 10 seconds, Zane was the one to speak up. "So the Cyber Dark Dragons, huh?" he said. "Yup." Yarden shrugged, and he felt as the dragon spirit's attention was roused. Zane, after all, would have been their wielder if he hadn't come along. Not that he could handle them. For all Zane actually had a rather powerful dual spirit in the Cyber End Dragon as his partner, he couldn't actually behold the spirit. It was not that he didn't have the ability to do so, he could see the spirit as a child after all, and it was the metallic dragon itself that chose Zane and taught him how to use it. But Zane had become far too logic-oriented, far too rigid in his approach to things. He'd unknowingly closed off his own ability to perceive the dual spirits. If he hadn't, and kept same as he was now, instead of becoming the masochism king of BDSM, it was highly likely he would have been actually capable of wielding the Cyber Dark Dragons without hurting himself, almost killing himself really. And in the end he'd done permanent damage to himself, and would never be capable of a real intense duel again come the end. A horrible way to end his career and lose out on the thing he loved most in life, dueling. Zane snorted, "It's like pulling teeth with you, huh?" He shook his head. "Fine, I'll get right to the point. How do you have the Cyber Dark Dragons?" "As far as I'm aware, only one set of the cards exist, and they were locked away for being dangerous for some reason. Chancellor Shepard wouldn't even let me see them, never mind use them. And well, forgive me for being blunt and sounding a little petulant, Yarden, but you have zero ties to the cyber style school like me, nor are you the successor of the style like me." "Does it bother you?" Yarden smirked at him. "A little bit," Zane nodded before shrugging. "Mostly I'm just confused, but I did work quite hard to get to my position. I had to travel to Tibet and climb to the top of Mount Everest just to be accepted into the Cyber Dojo, and I trained atop there for over a year and had to beat out every other candidate to get the top position." Yeah, Yarden wasn't going to lie, that was a bit weird. And hardcore. It showed just how seriously people took dual monsters in this world though. It wasn't just some card game. "Fair enough," Yarden nodded. "Well, there's two reasons why I have them over you. The lesser of the two is simply that despite being cyber dragons of a sort, they aren't at all compatible with your cyber dragons. They thrive in a dragon deck, not a machine one. You'd need to change your entire deck to get any use of them. Plus, they rely on having monsters in the graveyard," Yarden added. "I basically use the graveyard as my second hand, so that isn't really a bother. But for you, you'd need to set up a style revolving around tossing your monsters in the graveyard just to soup up the Cyber Dark Dragons, and that isn't you, mate." Quite frankly, Yarden remembered Zane's deck revolving around the Cyber Dark Dragons. It was abysmally trash. It had less synergy than the first mishmash deck he used when he ended up here. The only reason he managed to do anything at all with that janky deck was because of both Cyber End Dragon and Cyber Dark Dragon backing him up. It might have sounded hypocritical of him to lay it out like that because he used his spirits to draw, but the difference was, Zane didn't even believe in the existence of those spirits. He just assumed it was all him. That makes it seem like they're not even part of the cyber style at all. What is the point of them then? Zane narrowed his eyes suspiciously, before sighing and shaking his head. Well, that's one reason, I suppose. What's the other? In response, Yarden's gaze turned fully serious. The second point is the most important. They are dangerous, especially for a guy like you, he said bluntly. It's not strength, or mental fortitude or anything that makes them dangerous for you though, it's simply the fact that you've cut yourself off. You can't even see what you have right now, who supports you full-heartedly. How could you handle one who doesn't want to support you because you can't even comprehend that they exist in the first place? Frankly, Yarden definitely wouldn't be content to support a guy who just used him as he pleased and didn't take any of his thoughts or desires into account, especially more so with a person who didn't even know he existed. There was 3 reasons why Cyber Dark Dragon obeyed him. 1. He was strong. Cyber Dark Dragon didn't have the power to overpower him mentally, spiritually. And on top of that, he had all his other spirits, a few that were on the same level or stronger even, backing him up. The second reason was it was beneficial for Cyber Dark Dragon to work with him. Because by being with him and bonding with him, just like his other spirits, their combined power would cycle in a circle. Theirs would flow into him, and his would flow back into them, making not only their combined power that much greater, but their individual power grow over time. And finally, he could see and understand Cyber Dark Dragon. And he could give it what it wanted. It wasn't locked away in some box with him, it was free to roam, and got to fight in duels as it desired. Zane stared at him blankly for a moment, before sighing and palming his forehead. Dual spirits, huh? He mused, then stared him in the eyes. You're saying the reason why I'm not worthy to inherit them as the successor of the cyber style is because I don't believe in a childish fairy tale? And can't see these so-called spirits? That's the problem, Yarden snorted at him. It's not that you can't see them. Because you do have the power and the ability to do so. It's that rigidness you built up that's blocked you off from being able to, though. Putting aside whether you believe in them or not. Let me ask you this, how would you feel about a guy completely ignoring your existence, full-on blocking your existence to them out, yet at the same time using your abilities and power for their own benefit? Really? Zane rolled his eyes. That's how you're doing this? Fine, I suppose I would be quite angry and frustrated, at least I imagine so. Exactly, who wouldn't? Yarden nodded. Whether you believe me or not, dual spirits exist. Both Cyber End Dragon and Cyber Dark Dragon are dual spirits. Cyber End Dragon is content to support you, but Cyber Dark Dragon has desires you simply can't provide for with the way you are now. It was entirely possible for Yarden to prove they existed right here and now. After all, he was well capable of manifesting any of the dual monsters that had become his BA. The question was, should he? And because you can, Chancellor Shepard deemed you worthy? Zane raised an eyebrow. Fuck no, Yarden snorted. Zane, you've met me. Why on earth would you come to that conclusion? I just blackmailed Shepard into giving them to me. Eh? Zane blinked, and just stared. Stunned silent for once at the blunt admission. Just like Cyber Dark Dragon, there's things Shepard needs, he continued with a shrug. I just happened to be in a position to find out what, and offered my services in return for the Cyber Dark Dragons. That sounds like a trade, not blackmail. Zane deadpanned. Nah, it was definitely blackmail. I had all the power in that discussion and a lot of leverage. Yarden smirked back at him, but that's basically it. That's why I have them, and you don't. Is that so? Zane rolled his eyes. Fine then, I don't suppose then you can provide any proof towards these claims you have about dual spirits and whatnot. He could, but he was going to hold off for a while. Oh, I could, but I won't, Yarden shrugged. The simple matter of forcing you to change your opinion and beliefs isn't going to help that much, to be honest. Hypothetically, how do you think Cyber End Dragon would feel if you could finally see it, but not because you wanted to or believed in it, but because someone else forced you? He clicked his fingers and pointed at Zane. Respect your cards, numbnuts. He scoffed once more and narrowed his eyes at the older blue-haired boy. That's a lesson you've parroted around yourself, so don't go forgetting it, idiot. Zane blinked. Before. He nodded simply. The older boy uncrossed his arms. As you like to say, fair enough then, Zane said. I suppose I won't get much more out of you than that. For now, you can ask again, let's see, a week or two after the school duel, Yarden shrugged. Beyond that though, I wanted to ask your advice on a few things. Zane's eyebrows rose, and a smirk spread across his lips. I don't know, Yarden, my feelings are quite hurt, you know. You gave me quite the lambasting there, he pointed out. I might need to go brood for a few weeks and stare out into the ocean all dramatically emo and stoic like. Why would you be cutting down on the amount of time you do that? Yarden grinned. Because I would obviously need extra time to listen to ballads of pain and such things the overly emotional tend to do. Zane shrugged back. Perhaps I'll switch out my obelisk uniform for a different color. Black, perhaps? To show off how brooding I am. I do actually have a nice black jacket that could fit that I bought during summer vacation. Aha! He did have it. Nah, black just wouldn't go with your complexion, mate. Yarden shook his head. You should just give that jacket to me for safekeeping. That might be true, but you'll need to grow at least 3 or 4 inches before it will fit you, Zane shrugged. But enough about how short you are, kid. What did you need advice on? Well, I suppose I can let you win this round. It's about the only win you'll ever score against me. Yarden laughed. Anyway, I need some advice on an agency representing me. I've got one picked out that kind of interests me, but wanted some advice on what I should be looking out for in contracts and that kind of thing. Honestly, he was quite shocked at just who headed the agency. He'd only looked into it because of the name, but seeing who it was headed by shocked him quite a bit and solidified his opinion to at least meet with them. After all, he had no idea why T. Gardner had her own duelist agency that represented pro-duelists and such. He was eager, however, to find out, and he was also very curious why she wasn't a dancer or something like she'd initially planned to be. That, I can help you out with for sure. I had to navigate that quite a bit myself before I found a decent one. Zane nodded. Is that all? Nah, one more thing. Yarden shook his head. How would I go about getting a motorcycle delivered to this island? Once more, Zane stared at him blankly. Underscore 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 underscore. When classes ended for the day, Yarden made his way back to his dormitory alone. Jaden had ran off somewhere before he could even ask him about hanging out, and he wasn't really that close to Chumley or Cyrus. Jasmine and Mindy had some remedial classes they needed to take to keep their credit scores up as members of Obelisk Blue. Zane was being Zane and disappeared somewhere, probably to brood, or maybe he went to the gym? To work out and then brood. He'd come across him in the gym showers a few times standing under the water and staring up through the spray of water into the ceiling, brooding seriously. Zane was weird sometimes like that. And then there was his beautiful, beloved girlfriend Alexis Rhodes, who was serving detention after classes as well for getting into a catfight over him. Yarden couldn't help the chuckle that escaped him, leaning back on the luxurious, massive green couch within his dorm away from his laptop. For some reason, the thought that Alexis would get into a fight over him with another girl made him feel all tingly inside and amused beyond words. God, Alexis was the best. There was a shimmer in the air beside him as a scantily clad blonde magical girl plopped down by his side on the couch, but could she rock a pink mini skirt like me? I don't think so. Dark magician girl winked playfully, nudging her shoulder against his own. Her color is more blue anyway. Yarden shrugged with a snort. And for sure Alexis was right at home in a mini skirt. She wore one every day to class after all. God, he loved Duel Academy. Viva la Duel Academy. Seto Kaiba or Makuba Kaiba, it didn't matter. To come up with such a uniform for the girls, they had to be paragons of the male species. He would follow them into hell. Dark magician girl snorted, shaking her head. So T, huh? She asked, and gave him an almost wistful look. Yeah, T. He'd just finished sending off an email to the Gardner agency that had contacted him and offered to represent him. He had a good idea what to expect after talking with Zane. Still, it did leave him with a question. Do you know what happened with her? He questioned the gorgeous dual spirit. As far as I know, wasn't she going to go off to become a dancer or something? Well, I went on my way not long after that, to be honest, she shrugged. From what I know, it wasn't easy to make a living as a dancer, and she ended up mostly getting offers for a different kind of dancing she had no interest in. Yarden raised an eyebrow. Oh, is that so? He hummed, realization washing over him. A tale as old as time for beautiful girls going to America to become actresses or dancers and the like, huh? Stripper or porn star? What could he say? Curiosity got the better of him. Offers for both actually, from what little I heard. Dark Magician Girl giggled. So she came back to Japan, and after helping Yugi a bit she ended up going full duel list manager. I think she wanted to do it for Yugi, but he had no interest and just wanted to open a game store. And Joey didn't want a manager, though he did take Tristan on as a bodyguard. Well, that was interesting to know. Even more interesting was looking her up on social media. T. Gardner represented a few decently big names in the dueling circuit. Rex Raptor, Mako Tsunami, My Valentine, and a couple others he didn't recognize. Interestingly, both T and My Valentine were listed as single on their social media accounts, and had no significant relationship status in years. Wow. Joey and Yugi really dropped the ball there, I'll say. I mean, have you seen T naked? I have, and wowee. Dark Magician Girl laughed, kicking her legs. Her boobs are amazing. Good to know. Not information he truly needed to know since he had a girlfriend who had amazing boobs already, but still, good to know, he supposed. He shook his head. Enough of you. He shooed the dual spirit away, who merely stuck her tongue out at him. He couldn't allow her to distract him, he had things to do. For instance, deciding on what motorbike he was going to buy and getting into contact with the delivery people Zane had told him about so he could get it to the islands safely. The revolutionary idea of card games on motorcycles wasn't going to revolutionize itself. Or well, it probably would, considering it was a thing in the future, but he wanted to patent it and make a crap ton of money off of it. Plus, it would be a fun project to work on in his free time. Every man needed a hobby. Especially now that one of his hobbies had become a worldwide sport and he went to school for it. Thus it no longer qualified as a hobby. Leaning over the laptop, he browsed through various websites selling motorcycles, and actually it was kind of surreal that he could just purchase one at his age. Which was only possible because he was an Obelisk Blue student at Duel Academy. The kind of permissions he got were quite frankly absurd. The kind of autonomy that let teenagers purchase helicopters to come to school and airlift them into the sky so they could have duels in the sky, in the middle of the night, in the middle of a storm. Over a lake. In the dead of winter. The logic of a world enforced by Kaiba and card games was crazy, but Yarden couldn't deny he loved it. Just as Yarden was eyeing a black motorcycle with gold trim he liked the looks of, he was interrupted by his door swinging open. Alexa's hip bumped his door shut behind her, an exhausted look on her face. I have had the weirdest night, she said in lieu of greeting, and wasted no time in kicking off her blue boot and sighing in relief. Hello to you too, love. Yarden replied, sparing her a glance before focusing back on his laptop. Don't be a smartass. Alexis rolled her eyes and made her way over to stand behind him, peeking over his shoulder at what he was doing. Ah, that's right. What's this Zane was telling me about you wanting to get a motorcycle delivered here? Just a plan I've come up with, Yarden shrugged. I'll let you know more if it pans out. I dunno. Alexis wrapped her arms around his neck from behind and rested her chin atop his head. The thought of you and a motorcycle is all I need to know that you're up to something again. Can't I just want one to ride around on? He snorted with a shrug. On an island with no roads? Alexis retorted drily. Well. Fair enough, Yarden replied, grinning. Alright, how's this? Card games on motorcycles. He could practically feel it as Alexis rolled her eyes. Yeah, you know what, never mind, I don't want to know what scheme you've cooked up this time. She retorted, pressing a kiss against the crown of his head before pulling back from him and clambering over the couch to plop down beside him. Zane is such a gossip. I always knew that cool guy facade was bullshit. Yarden huffed good-naturedly and side-eyed his girlfriend. So, why was your night weird? Beyond having to deal with that bitch in detention with me? Alexis scowled, crossing her arms. Honestly, who does she think she is? Running her mouth like that and saying she's going to take you from me. I hope that black eye I gave her takes weeks to heal. He had to withhold a chuckle. Honestly, flattered as I am over it, hell, I love seeing you all territorial and possessive. It's kind of odd coming from you, Yarden pointed out. You're the one kind of totally okay with me dating your friends as well. Okay with it is a stretch, Alexis shrugged and gave a deep sigh. Look, we both know I have very little idea of what I'm doing here in this relationship. I think you're doing okay. Yarden said. It showed in how comfortable she was around him, how easily she made physical contact and just hugged him just like a moment ago. But saying I'm okay with it is a push, she continued on, ignoring what he said. She slumped over on the couch and looked up at him with a frown. It's your fault for being a big flirt, really. Jasmine really likes you, and I don't want her to get hurt. If sharing you makes sure she doesn't get her heart broken, okay, but saying I'm okay with it is a different matter. She pointed up at him. I want you all to myself, Yarden. He wasn't sure what to say really in response to that confession. But he did find his lips quirking up into a smile. You don't have to share, you know, he told her. I like Jasmine a lot, but you come first. She smiled back and they fell into a small silence for a few moments, before Yarden decided to break it. So why was your night so weird? He asked again. You mean besides once again having to shoo off a bunch of guys telling me how much of a bastard you are? How you're not a good person, and a bully and a bunch of other stuff and begging me to dump you? Alexis raised a brow at him. It sure ain't easy being the bad guy, he rolled his eyes. Alexis laughed. Don't worry, I hear some girls like the bad guys, she winked. Oh, is that right? Yarden smirked, reaching down and trailing a finger up her bare leg. Well, I'm dating you, aren't I? Alexis fired back, before lifting her legs and dropping her feet in his lap. But yeah, tonight was weird. Some little girl obsessed with Zane snuck into the school. She raided his bedroom earlier like some kind of weirdo stalker, got found out by Jaden, and then it all ended in a duel. Oh right, Blair, he'd totally forgotten about her. Oh, he merely hummed in interest instead of saying anything and took one of her feet into his hands and began rubbing it. Her feet were so tiny and dainty. Alexis smiled at his actions and continued. She dueled with this weird maiden-in-love archetype I've never seen before. It was kind of interesting. She trailed off before shaking her head. Cyrus and Chumley were watching the duel as well, and they were weirdly fighting over wanting to date the maiden-in-love card. It was kind of wiggy. She frowned, and, I can't be sure, but for a bit I was sure I heard the card talking. But that couldn't be right, she asked, before shaking her head. But that can't be right. I've got the dual spirit you gave me and I haven't been able to see it yet at all. So why would I see the maiden-in-love? He honestly didn't know. Affinity maybe? Yarden gave her a grin. You're a maiden-in-love after all. Her cheeks burned. Is that a thing? Alexis bounced up quickly, pulling her feet from his hands and gaping a bit at him. Dunno, but it got a good reaction from you, he laughed. You brat. Alexis huffed, plopping herself down in his lap and pinching and pulling on his cheeks. It didn't hurt and amused him more than anything else, the brattiest, he boasted proudly, before reaching down to cup her full ass through her tiny skirt and give her cheeks a squeeze, and capturing her lips with his own when she gasped. When he pulled back a few moments later from the kiss, Alexis was panting deeply, before pressing her forehead against his own. So what's this about you not wanting to take part in the school duel, she asked. Zane said you have another scheme up your sleeve. Seriously, why was Zane such a bloody gossip? Chapter 30. So what's this about you not wanting to take part in the school duel, she asked. Zane said you have another scheme up your sleeve. Zane the bloody gossip. He stared into his girlfriend's eyes before rolling his own. Yes, I have another scheme up my sleeve, he admitted with a shrug. No point in denying it at this point. Alexis knew what he was all about. I always have a scheme up my sleeve. I did say I'm the bad guy after all. Alexis hummed, leaning back on him slightly. So why don't you want to participate, she asked. It must be quite the plan you've got cooking this time. Being in the school duel, and winning it like you no doubt would, is the kind of thing that looks great on your record. Zane winning it in his first year got him scouted by agents already and he got to tour all 4 of the duel academies. Yarden hummed himself, staring up at the ceiling for a few moments, before shrugging and meeting his eyes again, arms tightening lightly around her waist. Well, I've got a bunch of things going on at the moment. For instance, I've actually got into contact with an agent of my own already, a pretty great one actually. He revealed. Alexis' eyes widened. Wait, you have? She asked, surprised. Why didn't you tell me you were looking into agents already? Did you get offers because of our duel against the Paradox brothers? Most likely, and it was only a few, and I wanted some advice from Zane first before I did anything with them, Yarden replied. But yeah, I lucked out I think. I got scouted by the Gardner agency. Alexis blinked. That sounds familiar. It should, he pointed out. The head of it, T. Gardner, represents my Valentine, Rex Raptor, and a few other decently big names, though that wasn't why I chose the place. Honestly, he was still a little surprised T actually reached out to him with the offer to represent him. From what he knew, the attitude he displayed wouldn't have been the kind of thing she'd be receptive to. Or was it? She did represent Rex Raptor after all, and he was a twat. Or was it just because he showed such promise and she saw a chance? A giggle resounded in the back of his head. Master, your girlfriend was more on the ball. Some girls do like the bad guy's dark magician, girl tittered. T had a thing for Master Adam, remember? She was into the whole brooding dark thing right up to even before she left Japan to pursue her dancing career. And she had a little thing for bad boys. She's the type that wants to fix them. Though, I doubt her tastes lead her to reaching out. Most likely it was a combination of your strength as a duelist and using me. T is one of the few who can see me after all. We bonded a little bit once upon a time after all. Huh, that's amazing, Alexis beamed at him, breaking him from his mental conversation. But wait, didn't you call out one of her duelists on live television? T probably found that amusing. She never liked that little Dino imp. Dark magician girl laughed, getting a snort of amusement from Serpent Knight Dragon. It's almost too bad you've got Alexis, 'cause I'd say you'd definitely have a chance of hitting that and fulfilling your childhood crush on her. You basically hit all T's buttons. You've got the bad boy aesthetic she'll want to fix. She loves to play the mature, helpful big sis role too. She likes being relied on by people, tough boys especially. Huh, well, that was a kick in the dick, wasn't it? Maybe Alexis would be up for a threesome? But nah, as much as he'd love to take T to Pound Town and he'd seen her profile picture on her company website, God, she aged amazingly, he wasn't going to jeopardize his relationship with Alexis. He cared about her a lot more than he thought he ever would. I did, but I've got it on good authority that she dislikes Rex and probably got amused by that, Yarden replied to Alexis, which is the reason I chose her, my informant more or less. Informant? Alexis raised an eyebrow, before rolling her eyes in realization. You mean one of your spirits? Yes, he lied shamelessly. You'd be surprised by the kind of things spirits that can be seen by the vast majority of the population can find out. In this case, I've learned she is a close friend of Yugi Moto and Joey Wheeler, and was even in the same class as them in high school. In fact, you can probably see her on the sidelines during the videos of Battle City and the like. His girlfriend's eyes widened. Wait, seriously, she gaped, before shaking her head in amazement. That's incredible, Yarden, I'm so proud of you. She lurched forward and wrapped her arms around his neck and dragged him forward into a hug, coincidentally burying his head between her huge breasts. Yeah, it was good to be him. He basked in her embrace for a few moments, before she pulled back, a puzzled look on her face. But wait, that doesn't explain why you won't compete in the school duel, unless you plan on leaving the school to meet with her or something? Alexis frowned. No, not at all, Yarden shook his head. I have no intentions of leaving Duel Academy. Then why? She asked again, confusion written all over her face. Yarden let a grin spread across his face. I did tell you multiple schemes, right? He squeezed her waist, tickling her sides, drawing a gasping giggle from his girlfriend. I know where Chaz is, he revealed. Alexis went wide-eyed through her giggles. Why, you what? She gasped. How? Why didn't you tell us before we went on that silly goose chase? 'Cause I just found out not long ago, he lied again, from one of my spirits I had checking out North Academy. Apparently the Chaz enrolled there and somehow ended up as their representative in the school duel. And those wacky businessman brothers of his are getting in on it. They're gonna televise it all to try and up their little brother's stock in the dueling world. He grinned widely, looking into Alexis' eyes. It won't bring in the same kind of incredible rates we had against the Paradox brothers, but let's say that Chaz, best duelist at North Academy, hyped up as one of the elite Princetons, is put up against a no-name slifer like Jaden. You're rigging the bets again. Alexis gaped in realization. God, you're such a money grubber. No wonder Jasmine fell hard as well. Right in one, baby, Yarden guffawed, pulling her forward and nuzzling his nose against hers. The rates won't be anywhere near as good as ours, but I've got a lot more DP to use this time without issue, and money to use in of itself in actual bookies. I'm gonna be a millionaire after this. Alexis' hot breath washed over his lips as she gave a disbelieving laugh. I can't decide whether I'm really impressed you've went from basically nothing to sure you're going to be a millionaire here in just a couple months. or just flat out disappointed you gave up such a big duel for money. Money is important. Yarden pressed a quick kiss to her lips in protest. How else am I going to pay for our marriage when I get around to proposing, huh? He teased. Her cheeks heated and she rolled her eyes. You nasty flirt. Hey, I'm serious, Yarden grinned teasingly. I want to see you in a sexy lacy wedding dress, before ripping it off of you of course and having my wicked way with you. Is that right? Cheeks flushed. Alexis threw his catchphrase right back at him, arching an eyebrow as she leaned forward, her lips resting right by his ear. That's quite the claim you've made there, boyfriend of mine. Especially when you haven't even tried to have your so-called wicked way with me at all right now, she whispered breathily into his ear. Damn, she was getting good at this. The vixen. Didn't want to rush you or pressure you. Yarden shivered, hands trailing down from her waist, to cup her generous, curvy rear end through her tiny obelisk blue skirt. He would love nothing more than to throw her on his bed and make her scream his name so loud every one of her simps in the obelisk blue dorm would hear it and cry themselves to sleep, but he caught the feelings. And she was more important to him than just an animalistic fuck with a bodacious gorgeous babe. You don't need to hold back so much, Yarden, Alexis moaned into his ear as he squeezed her ass, sinking his hands into the soft, toned cheeks. Maybe I'm not quite ready to have sex right now, but you can take more liberties with me. You're always holding back on me, like a good boy. But you're a bad boy, aren't you? Be my bad boy. The sudden switch in tone and her words had Yarden shivering once more. Yeah, he was the bad boy, wasn't he? Not a nerd, the baddest boy. His girlfriend pulled back slightly, her hands reaching back and resting atop his own as she guided them down her full thighs and under her skirt and right up to cup the bare flesh of her ass. I'm your girlfriend after all, aren't I? She whispered, her face flushed. Touch me however you'd like, Yarden. She didn't even question how he had full faith that Jaden was going to beat Chaz, or to go more into his plans about the motorcycle he was going to get, or anything. He didn't even get to brag about his property schemes and one of the biggest reasons why he wanted an agent. Did she trust him that much now? He licked his lips, before surging forward and claiming hers in a rough sloppy kiss full of passion. The kind of kiss that was sure to leave her lips bruised and swollen later on. A moan escaped her, and she threw her arms around his neck, pushing herself fully against him, her body flush against his own, and her soft, plush ass in his hands. God, her ass was amazing. Everything about Alexis was amazing. His fingers sunk into her cheeks, kneading and massaging the toned, plush and fleshy bouncy globes. They were soft and jiggled and shook with every movement of his fingers, yet they were firm and toned as well. It was absurd how it could be so toned and firm, yet the doughy-ass cheeks would yield for his fingers to sink deep into like a pillow. The perfect ass. He didn't know how long it was that they made out, only that he was quite literally seconds away from pushing Alexis down on the couch. But it was her actually who took the lead. She pulled back, eyes glazed, cheeks flushed and lips bruised, and grabbed the collar of her sleeveless white uniform top and ripped it open, displaying the black sleeveless top she wore underneath. And then she yanked it up to her neck and Yarden's eyes flew wide open as her massive bare breasts bounced into view. She wasn't even wearing a bra. Small, juicy light pink nipples were pointed with arousal and hard little nubs, and the massive globes rippled slightly with each panting aroused breath Alexis took. Holy shit, I knew they'd be incredible, but just, wow, Alexis. Yarden gaped, one hand coming up to cup one of the weighty pillow tits and beholding the sheer weight of it in his palm. Horrocty above, even Dark Magician Girl was impressed. It was like holding the weight of a planet within his hand. I suppose you like them? Alexis gave a breathless giggle, leaning into his hand. You've been staring at them for so long and liked them pressing against you so much I figured it was about time you got to see them for real. God, I love you. Yarden couldn't help himself as the words spilled from his mouth with a laugh, and his eyes widened in shock as he realized what he just spouted. Alexis froze as well, her face going through a myriad of emotions before settling on a soft, tender smile. I love you too, Yarden, she said. And she was serious. Ha! Well, that was that then. His mind went blank for a few moments, and he stared into her eyes, before surging forward to capture her lips in another rough kiss once more, standing as he did, his hand leaving her astoundingly massive and soft breast, to cup her ass once more with both hands and lift her into the air and carry her over to his bed. Alexis wrapped her legs around his waist and threw her arms around his neck, moaning as their tongues intertwined, her hands fisting into his hair, taking two great big tight handfuls. Her large breasts pushed against his chest, and her rock-hard nipples rubbed against him through the material of his shirt, so rigid and pebbled he could feel them through it, sending electric shocks down his spine. God, they were so fucking massive, yet so soft. She was so fucking amazing. He pulled back from her lips, hands squeezing the doughy bouncy flesh of her arse possessively as he did, a full-on string of saliva still connecting their lips as he peered into her hazy eyes, her lips puffy and bruised. Yarden. Alexis panted hotly, fingers tightening in his hair, tongue trailing over her lips, cutting of the saliva trail. Let's do it, she mewed, almost wantonly. It was the hottest thing he'd ever seen in his life. I don't have any condoms, he admitted, reluctantly as he used his grip on her jiggly arse cheeks to grind her into him, pressing his rigid length into her core. She blinked slowly, before smirking, don't care. Alexis replied, taking him by surprise. She leaned forward, her hot breath washing over his ear. I want this. I want you. I want everything with you, she said, puffing against his lips as she leaned forward, catching his bottom lip between her own and tugging on it. He wanted to throw her down on the bed right now, push the tiny little obelisk blue skirt up and claim her, rut her like a beast, make her scream his name so loud every one of her stupid wimpy simps spread out across the massive expansive obelisk blue boy's dorm heard her cries of rapture and knew she was his and his alone. But, why did he of all people have to be the fucking voice of reason? Alexis. He mumbled into her lips, I can't promise I'll be able to pull out, not with you. He was practically about to burst in his boxers already, having his gorgeous girlfriend, normally so far away from this type of thing despite her obscene body and gorgeous goddess tier looks, was doing things to him that took all his might to stop from trembling in excitement, like a cherry boy. No girl he'd been with, or hell ever even seen prior to coming here, held a candle to the sun that was Alexis. She blew every other one out of the water. Yarden. Alexis breathed, her eyes turning warm, before she giggled and touched her forehead to his. Then don't. Give me everything. His eyes widened. But he tried to protest. I'm serious, Yarden, she gave him a look, I love you. And I know you. If it happens, then it happens, she gave him a tender smile, letting go of his hair and cupping his cheeks. If it's with you, then it's okay. If it happens, it happens. It would be coming about at some point anyway in the future, wouldn't it? Her gaze turned hot, wanton, and she purred, stroking his cheeks with her fingers. Whether it happens now or later down the line, the results will be the same, won't they? She pressed a kiss to his lips and spoke into them. Go wild, don't hold back, give me everything, and take everything I am for yourself. All yours. Maybe he should have protested. Pointed out that as much as he loved that idea, that the possibility of becoming a teenage dad wasn't something he was at all accomplished enough to do. Pointed out the litany of things that was wrong with that idea. But then, why did it sound so right? He was consumed in totality. He hungrily kissed her, before dropping her on the bed, Alexis mewling as she bounced atop it and spread her legs wide, her tiny little obelisk blue skirt hiding nothing as it was spread open and showing the lacy power blue floral thong she was wearing. You sexy fucking minx. He growled, grabbing her leg and kissing her ankle as he dragged her towards him, getting a squeal of delight from her. God, she was so fucking sexy. His hands went to his still red slifer jacket, and he ripped it off of his body, throwing it to the floor, and grabbing the hem of his shirt and pulling it over his head and tossing it aside. She was sitting up by time he tossed it aside, hands going to his rigid toned abs, the six-pack he'd developed through the effort he'd put in and sped run with the help of his spirits. A beacon, you're one to talk, you beast, Alexis panted out hotly, before surprising him as she pressed a kiss to his abs and began trailing her tongue through them, pressing her massive soft tits against his lower stomach. Oh God. His hands reached out and grabbed the sides of her head and dragged her up into another rough, hungry kiss, their teeth clacking together as they made out, moaning into each other's mouths as they did. Lemons scene in progress. You're mine now, Yarden. And I'm yours. She panted, staring up into his eyes, biting her lip. Before she sighed out deeply and pulled him flush down against her, those massive soft tits squashing against his chest. You're not allowed to go and leave me alone anymore, okay? She said, and Yarden was almost stunned at the sudden wetness in her eyes. She looked vulnerable, something she did her level best to not ever be, because she took pride in being a strong woman, not like my brother Atticus. He was almost stunned into inaction at the vulnerable admission, but he moved on instinct. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, ever, he promised, before capturing her lips in a rough passionate kiss, pouring all his feelings into it. She returned it with equal passion, arms tightening around his neck, nails digging into his shoulders as she ground herself against him. Lemon scene happened. It was just the first round of many that night, and while it was mostly slow and sensuous, making love, rather than fucking like beasts, an act of love, she was still loud enough that anyone on the same floor as him would have heard it. Victory for Yarden. That's it for this part. With this we have caught up with the series. Please support the author if you want more chapters as the series is still ongoing. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.